Last week, the fish were growing legs to become amphibians. This week, the amphibians lose their legs. Butterflies inspire stunning technology, and Venus is mysteriously winding down. This is Genesis Week. And welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy. Proudly brought to you by Core Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education, and exclusive right here on YouTube, showing the glory of God in creation and broadcasting from the Justice League satellite. Now that the Justice League no longer exists and the organization was going into receivership, we got their space station hideout for a song and a dance. We bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear. One of the most talked about shows on YouTube in science and technology. You can find us at Wazooloo.com or GenesisWeek.com, or click the ever so convenient subscribe link up top. And don't forget, you can also peruse other episodes by following the links in the upper corners of each episode. I'm your host, Ian Juby. I discussed the fishy story of fishopods last week, the alleged history of the fishies growing legs and walking up onto land and becoming amphibians, tetrapods. A wonderful story, complete with an alleged fossil ancestral tree. So now we look to this week's report of a bizarre legless amphibians which live predominantly underground. Now, although they are called Sicilians, rest assured they have nothing to do with Italy. The report discusses finding a whole mess of these strange creatures nesting in northern India. Now, this is not the first find of Sicilians. They're well known, just not in India. However, you'll recall the convoluted history of evolution presented last week, which has now gotten even weirder. According to the evolutionism myth, fish grew legs, walked up onto land to become four-legged amphibians, which diversified into all kinds of other land creatures, including cows, dogs, cheetahs, apes, and humans, while many other organisms decided to go on strike and never evolve, while still yet some of those four-legged amphibians mysteriously decided they were better off without legs and evolved into these legless amphibians. And so the evolutionism myth takes another bizarre twist in its just so story. So obviously, these legless amphibians have been quite successful without legs. So why did the fish evolve legs in the first place? If there was an advantage to legs, then why did these amphibians de-evolve, losing their legs? In the end, the answer is irrelevant, because evolution will simply make it fit. Answers or not, because evolution conforms to whatever evidence it is presented with, because it is not science. Now, you're certainly welcome to believe evolution, just please don't call it science. General Electric released details on its stunning new thermal imaging technology last week, along with a report in Nature Photonics. Researchers were studying the wings of butterflies and made a surprise discovery. The morpho butterfly glistens with a stunning, beautiful blue. It's what causes this color that caught the eye of researchers and inspired the design of an electronic eye. Examined under an electron microscope, the researchers discovered the surface of the wings were covered in an array of tree-like nanostructures. Now, this forest did several things. It refracted light, enhancing blues and removing other colors of light. Now, that was already interesting, but what they also realized was that this forest expands and contracts with temperature, which alters what color of light is enhanced or removed. So, taking this tip from the butterfly, GE engineers then set out to design a camera that sees temperature, thermal imaging, based on what they learned from the butterfly wings. The results are stunning, with the camera able to see temperature differences less than 0.2 degrees Celsius and with an incredible speed. A response time of about 1/40th of a second. Now, to give you an idea of just how fast that is, Consider that this video is a series of different pictures, every picture on the screen for a fleeting moment, 1/30th of a second. In less time than it took for you to see this subliminal message, the GE thermal camera has taken millions of temperature readings and recorded them. But of course, even though the camera was intelligently designed, why is it so hard for people to believe the butterfly was also designed? Such intricacies in the butterfly wing have no apparent evolutionary purpose, yet it is within the character of a creator god to make things that are just plain pleasing to the eye, which he also created. A baffling mystery was revealed this week in National Geographic magazine. The European Space Agency's Venus Express orbiter has been mapping the surface of Venus, but a problem arose when the photographic maps did not line up with the photographic maps taken by NASA a mere 16 years ago. After checking, double-checking, and triple-checking, the planet's features almost seem to have moved 12.4 miles from where they were last seen. It would appear that the rotation of the planet is slowing down, and dramatically so. Now, Venus is already an oddball in our solar system with a retrograde rotation. It spins in the opposite direction of the majority of planets. This is already a fatal problem for the naturalist theories of the origin of the planet. But now, to discover the planet's spin slowing down, and dramatically so at that, it remains to be seen exactly what is going on here, but one thing can be said. If this change in spin rate is consistent, it poses astronomical problems for an old universe, pun intended. The farther you go back in time, hypothetically, the faster the planet was spinning, to the point where forces would rip the planet apart long before you hit the alleged age of 4.6 billion years old. We'll be following this story with interest. Woohoo! Mail for me? I forget. I'm supposed to cut the blue wire or the red wire? Or I could just pull the detonator. William Tyndale made a comment on last week's show, the likes of which I hear often. All these poor souls whining about how dumb the man is. Why do ye continue to flock to his vids then? What are your sterilized channels of indoctrination not feeding you? Do you honestly think ad hominem attacks make for persuasive arguments? Honestly, they show the desperation of your position. Backed up to the edge of the precipice, clinging to defunct, outdated wives' tales. Self-proclaimed skeptics, try an ounce, just an ounce of your skepticism on your own beliefs and see how quickly the sham folds. Once Forgiven, Now Free also expressed the exasperation so many feel when reading the skeptical comments. Ian, I go back and check on your video every now and then to read the comments. The stupidity truly astounds me. It blows my mind. You're obviously doing something right because the atheists have gone crazy. They clearly don't know what to do when the facts are against them. Their instinct is to attack and insult you, which says a lot about their worldview and belief system. It should be noted that I frequently get similar comments from non-Christians and non-creationists. Now, interestingly, I was having a discussion with my friend Shannon this week, and she made a very interesting observation, which I think is quite accurate. She had seen some studies written up on road rage, how people can become absolutely insane from their rage, completely irrational, emotional, even physically violent. Normal people who suddenly lose all control of reason or rationale. This study apparently concluded that people considered their cars an extension of their person, and thus violating your car's personal space was a very personal violation against themselves. Now, in like fashion, Shannon, I think correctly, deduced that some people subconsciously consider evolutionism theory an extension of themselves, for whatever reason. And thus, when evolutionism is questioned, it becomes an attack on their person. And they respond with a completely irrational, unreasonable reaction akin to road rage. Now, I don't want to pick out examples from the comments because I have no interest in publicly humiliating people, but the very irrational, illogical, yea, even stupid comments that are persistently and consistently made are made by people that I would not consider stupid. Why? Well, look at the comments. They're in a rage, an irrational, illogical, unreasonable rage. One lady on Twitter responded to my last video response to the living dinosaur with, "Ian, he's only going to rub your nose into the dirt even more. You have no chance of winning against him. None." Who said anything about winning? Such comment is emotional, personal, and irrational. Such people are only interested in winning, whatever that means. Personally, I'm interested in the truth, not winning. So let the skeptics rage. Paul Chartley wrote in, Odinata talking of fossil footprints. The big problem with the alleged fossil human footprints that Ian so likes to talk about is that so far these guys haven't found any fossil human feet to make them. Thanks for writing in. However, apparently you are unaware that fossil footprints are very seldom found with the track maker. Of all the dinosaur megatrack sites in the world, I only know of 4 that had some dinosaur remains contained within the track-bearing layers, for example. I am unaware of a single body fossil found anywhere in the Coconino Sandstone, although there are innumerable fossil tracks scattered throughout the layers. The lack of body fossils has nothing to do with the legitimacy of the tracks. Police at a crime scene who see human footprints can positively identify that it's a human, even if they don't have the human who made the tracks. Johnny B. Groovy wrote in, Wazooloo, I've noticed a pattern between science and science disguised as creationism. One can produce practical applications beneficial to humanity while the other does not. For example, I've never seen life-saving medicine or medical equipment that can be made as a result of creation being fact. That can't be coincidence, can it? Excellent question, but you're mixing things up there. For example, the same comments can be applied to evolution. What practical benefits for humanity has evolution produced? You could also ask the same question for the science of paleontology. What are the benefits to humanity? The science you are referring to uses physics, chemistry, etc., applied to the here and now. Now, both creation and evolutionism are attempts to explain the past. It's totally different. Paleontology and aspects of geology also have this limitation. In fact, evolutionism has been detrimental to scientific research. Medical research in particular, for example, eugenics, or junk DNA and vestigial organs. The original evolutionary interpretation for these things was that they were useless leftovers from our evolutionary history. We now know that all of the alleged vestigial organs have purpose, as does the alleged junk DNA. Creationary thinkers would claim that any DNA has purpose. There is no such thing as useless leftovers. There may be broken DNA or organs, but creationary thinking would inspire, not hinder, scientific research. As a result of evolutionary teaching that things like the tonsils were useless leftovers, doctors cut them out of patients quite regularly, until they discovered that a tonsillectomy left you prone to polio and paralysis. Evolution has hindered scientific progress. The difference here is how your worldview affects how you do science. In this case, one worldview expects useless leftovers and deters scientists from seeking the purpose of useless leftovers. The other worldview would say that everything had purpose and was part of the overall design, thus compelling scientists to seek out the purpose and design. Creationary thinking looks to nature as designed with the intention of copying the designer's ideas, because he is such an incredible designer. A very lengthy discussion about stasis went on last week, and I must give kudos to YouTuber Fusion840, who attempted to explain the significance and obvious case for stasis in the fossil record to people who would not listen nor believe. Hey, at least you tried. But the discussion was ended and summed up so nicely in one sentence by answers questions 1. Microevolution occurs in unchanging environments, so if macroevolution is microevolution plus time, as evolutionists claim, then we would expect to see evolution even in unchanging environments. You nailed it. Thanks to everyone who wrote in with comments. Well, that's it for this week. I'm your host, Ian Juby. I hope you'll join me for next Thursday for the next episode. Please subscribe up above and use the convenient share button down below to post this video on TwitFace+ or to embed it in your blog or website. Let us remember the words of our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me." See you on the flip side. Production software was provided for Genesis Week by the Big Valley Creation Science Museum, located just 25 minutes north of Drumheller, Alberta, in the heart of Dinosaur Badlands. The Big Valley Creation Science Museum was built from the ground up to give credit to our Creator, portraying the scientific evidence showing that creation is the faith that fits the facts, and evolution is the faith that the facts have failed. Visit bvcsm.com for more details.